It's hard to believe we are already at another milestone. Today marks the 20th episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young, and I want to thank you for joining me yet again this week. We still have one championship series going on, but the rest of the sports world is slowly coming to a stall. The NHL Stanley Cup Finals are still raving on, and we have been treated to some incredibly exciting and somewhat odd games. Last week, I gave a recap of Game 1 that saw the Avalanche secure an overtime victory to take a 1-0 lead on the series. On Saturday night, I'm sure almost no one could have predicted what happened in Game 2. After Game 1, some people were calling the Avalanche victory beginner's luck or a one-time fluke, citing the Lightning's talent and experience in championship series as the reason the Avs would not win another game. Any doubt that was had about the talent of the Avs went right out the window in Game 2 as they made a statement, winning 7-0. It looked as if they could score anytime at will, and that they did. Watching the game, I would look away from the TV for maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and when I'd look back, the Avs had already scored 1 or 2 more times. It was an offensive explosion for Colorado and a defensive collapse for the Lightning. Game 3 was on Monday night, and it was a game that would have all but sealed the series had the Avalanche played the same as they did in Game 2. They still came out strong and took an early lead. However, the Lightning got hot fast and returned to championship form. Tampa Bay was able to put up some big numbers of their own and take home their first victory of the series, winning 6-2 in front of a packed home crowd. So far we had a close Game 1, Games 2 and 3 were blowouts, but Game 4 was one that came down to the wire. Tampa Bay would jump out to an early 1-0 lead, the Avalanche and Lightning would both score in the second period, and then the Avalanche would tie it 2-2 in the third as the game headed to overtime. 12 minutes into overtime, Avalanche center Nazem Kadri, who hasn't played since breaking his thumb and having surgery back on June 4th, would score the game-winning goal and give the Avalanche a 3-1 lead on the series. This means Colorado is just one game away from bringing home the Stanley Cup. This has been an incredible series so far. As much as I still believe the Lightning can still come back from this deficit, I do predict the Avalanche will close out the series tonight in Game 5. Even if you aren't the biggest hockey fan, I highly suggest watching this game. I promise you'll be entertained. Outside of this series, the NHL had their awards night on Tuesday to honor the best players in the league. The Hart Memorial Trophy, which goes to the MVP of the league, went to Maple Leafs center Austin Matthews. The Norris, the award for Best Defensive Player, went to Avalanche defenseman Cale Makar, who has put on an absolute clinic in the playoffs and the finals. And the Calder Award for Rookie of the Year sadly did not go to Ducks' incredible rookie Trevor Zegras, but to Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings. And while I am upset it wasn't our hometown kid, the trophy is well-deserved for Seider. Of the 3 other major sports, NBA has come to an end and the NFL is slowly starting, but we still have midseason baseball. Of our 3 hometown teams, 2 are having incredible seasons, and one started off fantastic and then fired their head coach and broke a franchise record for most consecutive games lost. As I've mentioned before, the Angels lost 14 straight games after looking like the best team in the MLB early on. They now have dropped to 3rd in the division, 10th in the American League, and 18th overall. It's a long season, and the 2 stars, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, are still playing great baseball, so they still have time to turn it around and earn a spot in the playoffs. On the other hand, the Dodgers and Padres are looking like serious World Series contenders. They are the number 1 and 2 teams in their division, 2 and 3 in the National League, and the number 4 and 5 teams in the MLB. Unless these 2 teams have any Angels-esque midseason meltdowns, they will definitely be making long playoff runs once fall rolls around. Speaking of fall, as I said, the NFL is slowly coming to a start as training camp begins. Teams for the most part have their lineups set, and free agents have settled into their new homes. As is very common in sports media, I'm going to make a way too early prediction for the season. Not so much of a prediction, but more of an observation. So, I thought I'd list my top 10 teams heading into the 2022 season, and here it is. The LA Rams, Buffalo Bills, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Denver Broncos, Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers, Kansas City Chiefs, and the New England Patriots. A lot of these teams come with a few question marks. Denver, for example, has completely changed their coaching staff and added Russell Wilson, which will change their entire offense. They have a high ceiling, but could underproduce. The Buccaneers are always solid with Tom Brady, but with the recent retirement of Rob Gronkowski and an aging offense, they could stall out later on in the season. The Ravens had an injury-ridden season last year, so no one really has a firm grasp of how talented they really are. I know it's a bold claim considering they've been to several consecutive AFC Championship games, but I truly believe this is the year the Chiefs begin to decline, especially after Mahomes lost his main target, Tyreek Hill, to the Dolphins. This list will obviously change and adapt as the season draws closer, but for now, I'm sticking with my gut. Over in the race world, there isn't an F1 race this weekend, but the next race will be the Great Britain Grand Prix during the first weekend in July. Last week's Canadian Grand Prix saw Max Verstappen take first place yet again for his 6th win of the year. Both the drivers' standings as well as the Constructors' Cup standings are about the same as they were last week, with Red Bull atop both of the leaderboards. Sticking with action sports, there's another World Surf League event this weekend. The Oi Rio Pro in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, has kicked off and is taking place from June 23rd to the 30th. Felipe Toledo, the current leader of the men's tour, has won the past 2 events that took place here. Considering this is also a home event for him, it makes a lot of sense. 2 local San Clemente surfers, Griffin Colpinto and Chloe Andino, will be competing in this event, so be sure to tune in at worldsurfleague.com to cheer them on. There's some weirdness surrounding the golf community lately, as several big-name players are dropping out of the PGA Tour. The LIV Golf Invitational Series is pulling more and more players away from the tour, and this week, Brooks Koepka became probably the biggest name to join the new league. The LIV now has 8 of the top players in the world, including Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, and more. The league is apparently very appealing to players due to its introduction of a revamped schedule that will include increased purses worth at least $20 million at 8 existing marquee events. With more and more high-profile golfers leaving the tour, the question is, will this be the new Premier Golf League? Only time will tell. I again want to thank you for joining me on 20 straight episodes of Sports Corner. Time really does fly when you're having fun. There's supposed to be some hot and beautiful weather this weekend, so enjoy the summer sun if you can. I'm Cole Young, and come right back here next Friday for another episode of Sports Corner. Have a great weekend.